Welcome back to BLOCKTV. This is the launch powered by Lunar Crush, where every week we get the latest in crypto community-driven insights. And joining us today live from Lunar Crush headquarters in California, the man himself, John Farjo. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, well, jump right into it. It's been a crazy day in the market. A lot of coins going down, including Bitcoin. What kind of sentiment are we seeing from that?
Well, we try to abstract ourselves away from price as much as we possibly can. Yes, it's quite volatile right now, but what we like to do is look at what exactly is going on in the market. We want to understand what is happening in the community, and let's take a look. Let's start today by looking at Bitcoin's social engagement. Let's look at this over the past 6 months, and you'll notice that it hasn't been there hasn't been very many spikes over the past several months. We've actually seen a pretty steady downtrend in social engagement. We really like social engagement because what that does is it doesn't just measure volume of posts, it measures the depth of those posts. And it's looking at likes, shares, retweets, upvotes, etc., comments. And it's really tough to game, it's really tough to spam. People don't typically comment and share spam posts. So when we look at this, we typically see, when there's a lot of interest, we see steady uptrends, and I'll show you a few examples of that in a moment. When we also look at Bitcoin on a shorter term, we see some other interesting things happening here. So over the past 24 hours, it's not all bad news. We actually are breaking out quite a little bit on the community side. So there's a lot of discussion going on. There's a lot of back and forth. We're seeing a lot of speculation about the halving next year, people making price predictions on all sides, things of that sort. So there's a lot going on there. And so that's what we're seeing with just specifically Bitcoin.
And like you said, there's a spike in these social engagements. What does that mean? What can we extrapolate from that right now? Especially with the market going as it is.
Well, it means that people are posting content that's worth engaging with. So it means that it's not just a bunch of spam. It's not a bunch of just posts about nothing. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot that people are very passionate about. When people get passionate, they tend to buy and sell at the same time as well. So there's some interesting things going on there. When we also look a little bit deeper, we have a new product actually we launched today called Influencers. And so for Bitcoin, we can scroll down here and actually see, well, who is exactly talking about this stuff? And so we can see that our top influencers at the moment, and this is not of all time, this is as of right now, we see that, Cointelegraph, Bitcoin, Pump, NextWeb, Jameson Lopp are all influential over Bitcoin, and they're talking a lot about it. Let's dive in and see what they are talking about and what they're influential over. So when we look at what Cointelegraph is doing, we see they're influential on 12 separate coins, but Bitcoin, they have an 81% influence rating on that. And we can see that they're talking about all sorts of different things. So Grayscale Bitcoin Fund files to become the first crypto fund to report to the SEC. That's the first post that we see in there. So there's a lot going on there. If we dive a little deeper, we can see just across the market in general, when we look, and this is just looking at Twitter, we can see that Cointelegraph is the most influential, followed by CoinDesk, Justin Sun, of course, and Ripple, followed by Pump. So we're seeing there's some pretty good activity from these individuals out there.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of parameters are you looking for? What goes into ranking these influencers, and how do they get up top there?
Great question. So we try to create as clean a feed as possible. So we don't want to have a bunch of spammers in here or things that are irrelevant. And we have a process of looking at the engagements with posts, followers versus who they're following. We look at what they're talking about. We use machine learning to understand what's in each post and classify it. And really what we end up is a nice clean feed of who actually has influence over crypto.
Mm-hmm. And are you weighting tweets based off influencer? As in, when you got, like you said, you're doing your Bitcoin engagements and also all your rankings. Are you taking into account, these influencers, the sources of the tweet to weight your actual rankings?
Yeah, we do. And we also take into account original posts. So it's one thing to be influential and just, if I had 1 million followers but I'm not creating anything unique or original, I'm just sharing other people's stuff. it's going to be less influential than someone that takes a lot of time and posts a lot of unique content. We see that a lot of these individuals in here are producing a lot of really unique content. If I just look at, let's specifically isolate Bitcoin again. And if I look at Bitcoin, I see that every one of these individuals spends a lot of time posting a lot of content. I'll pick on Rhythm Trader. We can see that they're exclusively influential over Bitcoin, and they spend a lot of time. It does look like they retweeted Trump at one point, but you see most of their posts are from them specifically, and every one of those posts gets a lot of engagement.
Okay, and I mean, listen, going from influencers, let's take a look at some other coins as well. I mean, the market has been all over the place. Take a look at Ethereum. What kind of sentiment have we been seeing over there?
Great. So Ethereum, similar to Bitcoin, we also see when we're looking at a 6-month time frame right here, we see that the social engagement is also down. But again, not all bad news. When we look at it on a shorter time frame, we're seeing a massive spike today. So people are really talking a lot about Ethereum. I mean, this is a huge breakout. There's some really interesting things that we tend to see. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, but when we see breaks in engagement that look like this, we tend to see a lot of movement shortly after. We keep seeing this pattern again and again.
And how about your coin of the day? I saw that Ethereum. Right now. It's the alt rank is 25. Let's bring it up to 1. What's your coin of the day?
Our coin of the day is IOST, and IOST. What we've seen lately is a bit of a breakout in social sentiment. So people are bullish on this project. We tend to see that when something breaks out in such a scale like we're seeing here, we're looking at a 6-month chart. When something breaks out, it's definitely worth taking note and understanding that something's happening with this project and it's worthy of your research to go further. When we look at another example here of breaking out, this is another project called Seal, which has had a really big breakout. And you can go way back here. This engagement had a huge breakout, and it's had a number of breakouts continually, and then we had a price move. This similar pattern, especially just a bump and then a lull and then a price jump. We've seen this dozens of times over the past few weeks. So there's definitely a correlation here.
It's really amazing to see those charts when you see those massive spikes in engagement actually preempt the price movement. It really goes to show you how valuable, especially in the crypto sphere, how valuable social media is, especially when affecting the actual coin's performance. And how about your Galaxy score? Who's topping your Galaxy score right now?
Let's take a look. So at the moment, it's Energy, and our Galaxy score is looking at the health of that coin specifically. So over time, Energy is doing actually quite well relative to itself, price performance, etc. It's followed by Matic Network and Verge, which we've seen have some breakouts over the past week as well. The fact that anything is up relative to Bitcoin today is a very interesting thing when you consider just the general market sentiment at the moment. Picking on Verge, which also has the highest alt rank. Let's see what's going on there. So again, we've seen a spike in social engagement, more spikes in social engagement, and we're beating the market right now by 6-7%.
Wow, very cool. I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, have you ever looked and compared, actually throwing your algorithm onto traditional markets? Is this trend also carry over to traditional markets, or is crypto by itself maybe even ahead of the curve? That the people, the people who are actually the active ones who are actually talking on social media, they actually are able to predict or even preempt price movements.
Well, I think we could definitely, expand into other markets beyond crypto. It would require some tweaks in our algorithms. One of the big things behind what we're doing is we have built from the ground up a natural language processing library that's crypto specific, that understands what people are talking about in crypto. It knows what moon means. It knows what certain emojis mean. It knows when you put certain words together, what they mean from a sentiment perspective. We could do something similar for the stock market, just as an example, except the difference there is that it's more highly regulated, and there's earnings reports, there's management teams. It's pretty transparent relative to crypto. So it is definitely something we could do. But I'll just say, just in general, we increasingly live in a world where the traditional methods of analyzing financial products are working less and less, because at a moment's notice, someone could tweet and move an entire market. So this continually keeps happening, and that's really what we're built around. We're here to capture that activity versus just doing maybe traditional technical analysis. And what's also interesting is maybe doing that technical analysis and layering in what we're doing on top of that, especially when you consider just in general, if you're an investor, you want to be investing in products, or in coins, I should say, that have a growing community, not a shrinking one. So really, from a really macro high level view from an investment strategy, you should always be looking at projects that actually have a growing base. It tends to push into trading volume, into liquidity, and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really it's amazing we live in an age. The Galaxy score might be the new earnings call, shifting markets as we know it. Thank you so much, John, for joining us and really instilling in us the sentiment. You always have your finger on the pulse there at Lunar Crush. And for all of us, we'll make sure to check back with you guys next week on here on The Launch. And for more news on crypto and blockchain, make sure to check your news at blocktv.com. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter